Wherever you are in the world, welcome to another edition of Jerry's Take on China. And please don't forget to hit the like button and share if you think it's worth sharing. I was recently asked, what do I think about Xi Jinping removing term limits so he can be president for life? And to be honest, it's a good question, but it actually shows, unfortunately, that the person asking doesn't understand much about China's politics. However, that's hardly surprising. Everything in Western media about Chinese politics is wrong, so it's very hard to find out what's right. So on this particular topic, here is what's right, and here's what I think about the removal of term limits. There are two errors in the question. First of all, Xi did not remove term limits. They were removed by the National People's Congress, the NPC. This is the highest body of lawmakers in China, and to assume that Xi Jinping controls them would be not only farcical, it would be outrageously wrong. Please do yourself a favor and go and take a look at China's website for this. It's in English and Chinese, but I've included the English link. The NPC has 2,980 elected delegates. Yes, that's correct. Elected from 35 different jurisdictions. They voted because they thought there was no need to stop Xi from progressing his policies forward. The claim that Xi created this situation for himself is completely ludicrous. He can't control them getting elected. There is no way possible that one man could control such a body, especially one man that Western media describe as isolated and weakening, which is exactly how they described him when the NPC met to remove term limits. So what do I think about it? The UK has no term limits. Australia has no term limits. Canada has no term limits. In fact, most democracies have no term limits. And what people fail to realize is that Xi Jinping is only in the job as long as he's popular. He can be ousted by a vote every spring when the NPC meets, or he can be removed in the same way any other leader in any democracy can be removed at the end of his or her term. Margaret Thatcher didn't serve 2 terms. She was there for 3. Sir Robert Menzies was Australia's longest serving Prime Minister for over 18 years. And John Howard, not even a popular Prime Minister, didn't stop at 2 terms. He got 3 too. Why should Xi Jinping be different? Deng Xiaoping introduced term limits and he had his reasons. Many people think that Mao went on for too long, and I can't disagree with that. China would have been different if he'd stood down 10 years earlier. The changes that did eventuate with Deng might have happened earlier, or they might not, but we'll never know now. The second error in the question is this often repeated claim that Xi has made himself president for life. This flies directly in the face of China being an autocratic state. Let's not forget, the NPC and the CPC can remove anyone who doesn't do their job. Xi Jinping is no exception. Despite what we read in Western media, he's very popular in China. Although it is possible to find people who criticize him, it's usually a criticism because he's too soft, too easygoing, maybe too slow. That's not what media portray of him as being. He's too authoritarian. People, real people that I talk to every day love the changes he's overseen. They love the crime-free environment, and they absolutely love that he stamped out systematic and systemic corruption, which was, I think, China's biggest problem. When viewed from a practical point of view, if a leader is voted in, and Xi was, by 2,980 delegates of the NPC because of his leadership skills, his experience, and his popularity, why should that person step down just because of a time limitation? He should step down when the people who put him there feel he no longer has the skills, experience, or popularity to continue in the role, or when he himself feels that he's done all he can do in the role and is ready to step down. So let's ask ourselves, why does the USA have a term limit? Well, the reason is because they don't trust their own democracy. They don't want a potential king to abuse the system. In fact, most people don't even know this, but term limits were only introduced in the USA in 1951 after Franklin Delano Roosevelt won his 4th term and then died shortly into it. Ronald Reagan in the 1970s tried to remove term limits while in office and was only defeated because many people, quite rightly at the time, believed he was heading towards Alzheimer's. Xi Jinping is not president for life. He is president of China because he's the person China wants as their president at the moment. If that situation ever changes, you can be assured he will know about it, and he will either step down voluntarily, he will be voted out by the NPC in their annual meeting, or he will stop at the Communist Party Congress, which takes place every 5 years, and that's the end of his next term. Whatever does happen, most people you speak to in China will be satisfied with the job he's done and is still doing. So if you think China needs term limits and you're not Chinese, then please consider the people who do live under the system. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's wrong for the 1.4 billion people here, most of whom would ask you why your prime minister or your congressman don't step down when they hit their 80s. Biden is not an exception, he's the rule. He'll be 82 in the same month as the next election. Pelosi was 82 when she stepped down. Mitch McConnell seems to have forgotten that he's 81. Dianne Feinstein is still wheeled into Congress despite being 90. Strom Thurmond didn't ever step down but died in office at the ripe old age of 100 and was still being accused of sexual assaults when he was 91 years old. So if we're going to have term limits anywhere, let's at least be consistent. And thanks once again for watching Jerry's Take on China, and I'll see you next time.